So congratulations, Steve, on Welcome to Marwen. I found this such a joyful movie.
Thanks.
It's funny, of all the characters that you've played before, I found that Mark Hogenkamp quite reminded me of the character you played in Little Miss Sunshine. There's kind of a sadness to both of them. They're both going through mental health issues. Would you ever kind of draw on previous performances, or do you see them as just totally separate characters?
I didn't draw on that one in particular. I don't necessarily connect characters that way, but I can see your point. They're definitely going through. They've both had very traumatic experiences. Mm-hmm. They're both going through an incredibly tough time psychologically. There are definitely parallels between those two.
Right. I remember watching the film. One of the things that really stood out for me about your performance was the physicality of it. You're kind of constantly like in this hunched over position, and I just think that speaks for miles of the character. So do you find like doing those kind of little physical alterations really help you kind of get into that mindset and the character?
It's fun. I didn't really think about it. It wasn't that. Yeah, I guess I wasn't aware of doing it. It wasn't something that I practiced in the mirror. I thought, I'm gonna be this guy. But it just, I guess it just sort of happened naturally. And getting to know Mark a little bit and watching the documentary and watching footage on him, I just was trying to emulate a little bit about his gait and his demeanor.
So you did get to meet him and everything. Because
I
was going to ask, how do you manage that balance of like not kind of doing an impersonation, but also staying true to, who he is?
Well, that's exactly it. You don't want to. It's weird when you're doing a character that's based on a real life person, because in meeting them, you don't want them to feel like they're some sort of science project for you, that you're examining how they're eating or how they comb their hair. You just want to kind of get a sense of who they are. And that was when I met with Mark, that's really what it was. I just got a sense of him as a human being, and what a lovely guy. I mean, he's exactly as you'd hope he'd be. He's funny and self-deprecating and just exuded kindness. But there is that responsibility, to try to get those things right. But not necessarily do an impersonation of who he is, but just get a representation.
What I love about Mark is that he is a really, really nice guy, a lovely person in real life, like you were saying there. But we have also seen you play the bad guy in movies. Do you have a preference for one over the other? Because I always hear that like villains are kind of more fun to play.
Yeah, villains are definitely fun to play. Because I think actors say that a lot because you don't get to be villainous in real life. You can't get away with stuff like that in real life. So when you get to do it at a character, it's sort of fun. It's sort of scratching an itch that everyone has to be a little bit bad. But it's fun to play a character like Mark too, because he is just such a warm, loving, completely uncynical person, which feels rare in this world. And so meeting someone like that and trying to get that across, that type of character, without it becoming cloying or overly sentimental, that's a challenge. But to meet him, he's a very singular kind of guy.
So Steve, I know I'm low on time, so I suppose one of my final questions for you would be, you've worked across so many genres now, across comedy, drama, film, television, you've done animation, you've done live action. Is there anything you haven't done that you would like to do next?
An opera.
An opera, ooh.
Yeah, I would love to do a musical.
Yeah.
That would be fun, yeah. I don't know if I'm necessarily well suited to do a musical, but that would be fun. It would be, maybe I could have sort of a speaking role in a musical, but I think that would be exciting.
Brilliant. So my very last question for you, Steve, is, Mark is quite a fortunate character in that he's surrounded by resources and support, but I think that Welcome to Marwen is kind of idealized that way. I don't think in reality, like there are so many issues with mental health. I know that in Ireland we're only starting to scratch the surface. What do you think the situation is like in America at the moment with how, people like Mark are kind of being...
Well, it's interesting. My mom for 30 years was a psychiatric nurse on a psych unit. And I got to know that world a little bit through her. And and the care that she gave people. And she worked the night shift too. She worked from 11 at night until 7 in the morning for as long if my entire childhood. And and I saw her struggle with it from sort of inside the system. And it's tough. I don't think there's certainly no easy answers to. I think it's a much bigger issue than people know, or that is commonly understood. And to your point in terms of healthcare, and I feel like it definitely falls short. It's not. I don't think it gets the kind of interest or exposure that it should, and the funding. But maybe that's just seeing what my mom had to go through, and the limited resources that they had at the hospital that she worked at. So, but there are a lot of great people working there and fighting the good fight.
That's brilliant. That's a powerful note to leave it on. So thank you so much for that, Steve.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Are all of the dolls in Marwen people you know?
Yeah, there's Anna, Julie,
Hell yeah.
Carlala,
You can't keep on running away from your problems.
Roberta.
Were you gonna go to the sentencing? You need to face those jerks who beat you up.
I'm not really sure how to do this.
Our pain is our rocket fuel.
The life I once had was taken away from me, but I'm still here. I have hope. And I have my town. And I have my friends.
We got your back.
And I'll be okay. Anything is possible in Marwen.
Bottoms up, girls.
People need to see how special Marwen really is.
To life, to love, to the women of Marwen.